Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear listeners. Here we are again with another episode of Deenversation. And I am here together with Ahmad. Assalamu alaikum, Ahmad.
Wa alaikum
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Alhamdulillah. So let's directly jump into our today's discussion.
Of course. So today's discussion, so you sent me a link yesterday, day before yesterday.
Yeah.
It was a very, very interesting link and I wanted to discuss that today. So it was, you sent me the story all about the journalists and the team that went recently visited from Pakistan to Israel.
That's
And
right.
they had their experience there. And just recently an interview came out for one of the members of the team that went there, who was documentary director and journalist Sabine Agha.
Right.
And we saw her interview, which is what you sent me, and I thought it was really, really, really interesting. The things that she says.
What do you mean by really, really, really?
I mean, I gotta really emphasize how interesting it was.
You're making me skeptical.
She seems to break all of the paradigms that we formed of this Israel and Palestine issue, and the whole image that we had of Israel and its people.
And I had a pretty good idea that the Israeli people are just like us, just like normal human beings. It's a country which has a 1,000-year-old history. It has civilization. It has culture. It has a religion. Yes. So do I. So do us.
So you've seen the interview. I've seen the interview. You sent it to me. What do you think about that interview?
I think exactly what you said. She was there and they were there to do exactly that, which is break the bad negative image of Israel and try to, it's a normalization effort. They want to
Just
normalize
for the
things.
listeners, should we recap that this team went from Pakistan to Israel and they went on a mission to basically see what life is there like,
That's
right?
right, yeah.
So
they visited particularly South Israel, yeah.
Yeah, South Israel, yeah. So the team went and they came back, and Sabine Agha.
So they visited the places where the October 7th,
Yeah.
if I call in Shahzeb Khanzada's words, on 22nd of March, he said in a program, terrorist attacks
कि 7 अक्टूबर 2023 को इसराइल पर हमास के दहशतगर्द हमलों के बाद
by Hamas were conducted or happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I mean, Shahzeb Khanzada has got a lot of backlash for that also, but
Shouldn't he, if I ask you?
I think it just goes to show how tense this issue is and how we should be light with our words.
So
I don't think it was I wouldn't say a minor slip up, but I don't think that he personally thought that way.
So let's start with this discussion. What do you think, what difference does it make if, say, a Pakistani journalist calls those attacks, whatever happened on October 7th, if he calls them terror attacks? What do you think, what difference does it make? Is this something significant? If yes, why? One angle is the Islamic angle.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's keep that aside for the moment, even though that should be the first and foremost angle with which we discuss, but I'm keeping it aside because I think our listeners know what we think, and I think they also know what Islam says. So now let's have a look at the political ramifications of such talk.
Well, I feel like there's a trickle of nowadays Western media and their influence on people's minds, and they're getting people to think about Hamas as terrorists and all of these attacks as terrorist attacks. And I mean, I don't know whether they're wrong or right in that. I haven't done my research well enough, but there is a certain influence from the West on that viewpoint, and especially here in Pakistan, where the view before was very anti-Israel and pro-Hamas.
So I think what we need to understand is that if you label them as terrorists, and we discussed this discussion of terrorism in one of the episodes,
Yeah.
you label them, after that you get kind of a moral free hand to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And that's what Israel is doing actually.
Yeah.
And how you do that is by trying to show that history starts on October 7th. Actually, history does not start on October 7th. History starts well before that. Some people would take it as far back as 1948, when Israel's illegitimate state
I would
was
want to take it
formed.
back to World War I if we can do that in the next
Exactly.
episode.
I would like to take it back at least to the Balfour Declaration,
Yeah.
where
Exactly.
where unilaterally Britain declared
Exactly.
that Jews will have a homeland,
have
and
their
that
own-
would be in Palestine.
Yeah.
So it did not start on October 7th. So
Yeah.
October 7th was actually a reaction of about more than 100 years of atrocities. So I think calling it a terror attack is unbelievable.
But then we'll have to delve into that topic really deep to see what you consider atrocities, because there are some things that some people might say that are very bad that have been done to Israel. So we see
Well,
that,
I think we don't need to really delve deep. I think taking someone else's land,
yeah,
forming a state on that land, getting it recognized by the United Nations and the major powers of the world at that time, the UK, US, and other countries, and then displacing a million people, the Nakba, the first Nakba, and then having militias, the Haganah and many others, to kill the local population, drive them
Yeah.
out, kill them. All of this is, I think, we don't really need to. Who doubts that? Is there any independent media who would say the Nakba didn't happen? Is there any independent media who would say that these Jews were living for hundreds of years in Europe?
Well, in this conflict, there are some points that, valid or not, are kind of like scapegoats for the Western media to use, and for sometimes I also think of them, and I think of them as valid ideas. So maybe in the next episode we can clear that up.
Okay.
But going back to our main topic at hand, about her interview, we see that she was really giving us a different perspective on the whole Israel issue. So what do you think about that? Like, she was completely humanizing the people to us and their culture and their...
That's the word, yes, exactly. That's the word, humanizing. So what she was doing is, just a bit of background. Israel has a problem. Israel has a legitimacy problem. So Israel is an illegitimate state, and it needs, in order to exist, it needs at least its neighbors to recognize it.
How much more legitimacy would Israel need? They've been recognized by some of the biggest powers nowadays. So what more would they need?
As I said, what they need now is to be recognized by its neighbors.
All right.
So they need to be recognized by those Arab states,
The Arab
particularly
countries, yeah.
who are its neighbors.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, they will never be able to exist or function normally. So they are dependent in terms of trade routes, in terms of export, import. They are dependent in terms of everything, actually. So you look at it on the map, and it's a minuscule state, actually, amongst huge Muslim lands. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
And those huge Muslim lands came together to attack them, I think, in one point of Israel's history.
yes.
When they were coming up. So we can talk about that maybe.
Okay, we can do that in a separate episode. By the way, I have made a whole episode on those. I call it the fake wars.
Oh.
And maybe we can provide the link somewhere, I don't know, here or here on this side, during this video for our listeners to have a look at that. Now, so they need legitimacy, and that legitimacy is achieved by normalization. What is normalization? So why do they want to normalize? So normalization means that you say, okay, it's just another country, it's just another people, it's just another religion, they are just like us.
Yeah.
These things are normalization. So let's sit down with them, let's talk to them,
Yeah.
let's do business with them,
Yeah.
let's be friends with them. And this, unfortunately, has started all of a sudden now after 7th October. Just imagine, like, after they have broken world records in killings, in carpet bombing, in displacing people,
But
in
that's
genocides.
a separate issue, I think. I think the main thing is that, Agha didn't go there to, rationalize or justify the government's actions. She didn't go there to rationalize or justify a genocide. She didn't go there to, justify war crimes. She went there to, show us that these people were living, breathing human beings just like us, and that the people that live there have a culture, they have a society, and they're actual people that live there. you know, these.
Who
they're not
doubts-
villains. They're not
but
villains.
No. Who doubts these things? So don't we know that they are normal human beings?
Yeah, but
Which
the thing
means
is
that
that-
they have two
The
eyes,
thing is
they
that
have
we,
one nose.
we look at them.
Yeah.
We look at them as villains. All of them, even aside from the government.
Yes,
the
and we should
civilians.
look at them as villains, even the civilians, because they are all part of an occupying people. So, as occupying people, I mean, should you love their children, and should you welcome their women, and should you care about their old? Does that make any sense? I'm
Are
not
they
saying
a part
I'm
of
not
the
saying
conflict, though?
whether they are part of the conflict or not, that's actually a separate discussion, so you have to be extra careful with them. But those people being there, they are part of the occupation. They are occupying someone else's land. So they happen to be as children in the wrong part of the world at the wrong time. But now
They've been born there. They're
Yes.
born like that. Where else do they have to go? They have no
so
options when
if
it comes to this.
if you occupy my house for long enough, and you keep your family here and your children are born here, will I have to give them some due share in my house then?
No, but you will have to at least, you can't go ahead and condemn them to the same, like, if the father.
As children, I won't condemn them. That's not the
Yeah.
point. But again, everyone knows that. Everyone understands that. We don't need a Sabine Agha for that to
Yeah.
go there
Yeah,
and
yeah.
tell us that the children born there
Yeah.
are normal, breathing, smiling, crying children.
Yeah.
She doesn't need to do that.
She
This
does.
is-
She does, because people are kind of forgetting that. Oh, we need to
No,
remember.
I don't think
we need
anyone
to remember-
forgets. I don't think
we need
in
to
any
remember that there are
conflict-
civilians there. There are
No, no.
innocent people there.
As I said, in any conflict, people never forget that the other people are actually not monsters, rather human beings, but their acts are monstrous.
Yeah.
And the acts of those monstrous people, it's of course not the children who are doing
We
these
traded
monstrous
a
acts.
blow for a blow when we came on 7th of October. So we went, whether you like it or not, and we can justify it with, we can say, and there are very, very good reasons for what happened and very bad reasons for what happened. And I'm not trying to say any of that, but we did target civilians in that. Civilians, innocent people.
No, you, first of all, it was not a blow for a blow.
Yeah,
Rather, it was a handful of people
yeah,
against one of the most weaponized armies in the world.
yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So it's like David Goliath thing.
Yeah.
Okay? Secondly, when you say it's civilians, you need to understand something.
Yeah,
Occupiers are not civilians. What you're saying is there's a fine line. The line is that those occupiers have some babies and some old people with them.
Yeah.
Some children and some old people. So the warring faction, the other faction, has to take care of them.
No, but there's a problem. There's a problem in Israel, and that's the management there. There's Netanyahu, and we have all of those villains. There are genuine villains there, and whether they've passed or they're still there, there are villains there. And I think
No,
that
there are only villains there. There are no heroes there, which means there are people who would say we have to kill all the Palestinians.
yeah, but you can't say that. When you say that, do you know that you are, kind of justifying maybe a genocide by Hamas? What if Hamas tomorrow decides to kill all of the civilians there? You
No.
would say that they were all part of the, they were all
No,
part of
as
the
I said,
occupation.
I told you.
And that's what you're trying to say. You're trying to say they're all part of
I'm
the
trying to say
occupation.
something different. I'm trying
Yeah.
to say that Hamas and the Palestinians, they are bound by Sharia, and that's why they have to take care of the other factions, women and children. I understand that.
yeah, yeah.
However, their status still is that of occupiers. They don't have an excuse because of that. Whether it's because the head of the family who brought them there, but it is, again, think of it. I take over your house,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
And then I bring my women and my children in there.
No, but this is a wrong example. This
Why?
is more like I live in my room with my family, and then my father decides one day to expand beyond the room to the kitchen. And then he's taking control of the kitchen.
Okay, so no.
Does that mean that I'm getting faulted for just being in my room?
No, just a second.
Yeah.
There is no room in that country, in that area of Palestine, which belongs to the Jews as a country. Try to understand that. So let's be very clear. Jews are allowed to live there. They are allowed to live there as individuals.
Yeah.
They are not allowed by Sharia to establish a state within Muslim lands. Muslims and Quran and Sunnah does not allow that. We will never allow that. They can do that by force, and we will always resist to it, always, till the last drop of our blood. And that's what the Palestinians are doing. So you can come and live in one of my rooms as a guest. You can do that.
Yeah.
But you cannot come and take the ownership of
Yeah.
a single room, let
Yeah.
alone the whole house.
Yeah.
That's what they did. So there's a
Yeah,
difference.
but around the world, there's a great hatred spreading for Israeli citizens, and just because of the name that they bear, Israeli, and every one of them has become a villain nowadays, and not because of people don't take into consideration their government or the big players. At the table, sitting at the table, making the big decisions. No, they just go after the little guys, the civilians and the people that they can get their hands on. So all of this hate is just directed towards these guys. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair.
It's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair, but that's not our fault. It's fault of their leaders. How shall we correct the fault of their leaders?
Put the
What
blame.
should we do?
Put the blame where it. Put the blame where it's deserved.
So
Put
where
the
is
blame
it?
it's deserved.
Where is it deserved?
It's deserved on the leaders, the people who make the decisions.
Yes,
to.
but Ahmad,
Yes.
what should we do? Why should we become part of their normalization efforts?
Why would you call it a normalization?
What
do
else
you
is
mean
it?
by normalization?
I mean that it's an illegitimate state, illegitimate, okay?
Yeah.
So najaiz.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
does not.
Of course.
It's not allowed to exist.
Okay.
And that state now, after doing atrocities for 100 years, which were now capped by the last 16 months of unbelievable genocide massacres happening there, and now our people, some of us, are trying to give us a soft image of that country.
Whose fault is that? Is it the people who live in that, in the state of Israel, in the suburbs? Is it the fault of the baby who was just born, or the mother and father, like around the block? Like, whose fault is it? Or is it the fault of, the big players at hand, like the people in the government who are making the decisions?
Again, these people were not invited by those babies.
Yeah.
They were invited by an NGO called Sharaka. Sharaka meaning partnership,
Yeah.
which is exactly having an agenda, and the agenda is to recognize and normalize Israel in the Muslim world. That's their agenda. That's why they were there. So let's not
Well,
be
they
fooled.
failed at it. They
Let's-
failed at it because the only thing that was normalized here is that we got to know that they're civilians, they're innocent people there who aren't villains.
Again, I really don't understand their point.
Yeah.
I really don't understand the point. What's
Don't
the
understand the
point?
point.
I mean, whenever people occupy
The point
and
is
live
that
in a
there's
place,
so much hate put towards
no,
the common man there.
No, there's no hate to the common man.
No
It's
hate
not
to the
about the
common
common man.
All
It's
right.
about the policy. It's about the state, as I said. And then when you say yes, a state would have babies, and it would have old people, and it would have women. That's natural. But we should not be naive in thinking that, okay, let's go, let's meet with them. You can't. Sharia does not allow you to do that. You cannot. It's an illegitimate state. They are calling you for normalization. These are normalization efforts, and they haven't happened in 100 years. And now, when America wants that, and America is pushing the Abraham Accords, now slowly you are starting. Why? Don't you see the children who were killed by them? Are they just a statistic, just a number? Shall we just talk about that they are civilians on the other side? Nothing has happened to them even. None of them was killed. And here you have, in the 50,000 official count, more than half is women and children. Is this not enough? Sense needs to prevail. And then some of us go there and try these normalization efforts and having discussions that they are normal people, and they are telling us what was that lady saying in her interview? She gave an interview. What is she saying? She is saying that we should collaborate with Israel. She said we should have defense contracts, which are much needed for Pakistan. She is saying we need to learn from them. Okay, we need to learn from Israel. That's all that she's saying.
I was very much impressed with the progress, the technological progress that Israel has, been through. And I think these are the areas, technology and business, which, Pakistan and Israel must, we must collaborate with each other, and Pakistan can learn a lot from Israel in these sectors and benefit from each other.
I mean, she was not talking about the babies over there and things like that. This was a clear-cut attempt. Look at the interview. It's a 10-minute interview, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
And she is again and again saying that, and you know what she said? She said, why is it that our passport singles out Israel, that this
So you're
passport is
saying
not
they're
valid?
pushing-
Just saying that this country is, that this passport is not valid for this single country, Israel.
So what makes them so different? What does it has done to Pakistan to have that, mention, or have no mention of, in my passport that, it's valid for all countries except Israel?
And then she further says something very dangerous. She says, what has Israel done to Pakistan? Now, can you tell me what Israel has done to Pakistan? I'm sure nobody can, because Israel hasn't done anything to Pakistan.
Not directly.
Okay?
Yeah.
Exactly. But aren't we a brotherhood? Aren't we Muslims like a single jasad wahid, a single body?
And
That
aside
if
from
the eye
Muslims,
hurts,
just humans.
the whole body responds with agony and pain and everything?
And talking aside from Islam, we're human beings also, so we can recognize that.
We should, exactly. But if that's, unfortunately, the world has failed that test.
No.
Yeah.
Many people are in solidarity.
but not states. People,
Yeah.
but not states.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's the problem. People.
Okay, that's the
we
problem,
had we had institutions in which people believed. People believed in the United Nations. People believed in WHO. All those institutes which were also bombarded and bombed by
No, but if it's
Israel.
okay, let's take the notion that it may be a cover-up to normalize all of these things and cover up for what the atrocities that have been done. Why now? Why is it a ripe time now? Why not do this as they're going along?
What do you mean by going along?
Because even right now we can see that the ceasefire was broken. Again, everything is just history is repeating itself again. And why are they starting the normalization efforts now?
They have been trying. They have succeeded in the Abraham Accords. They have already succeeded with Morocco, UAE, and Bahrain. So these three countries have already recognized them.
Quite sad.
Then you have some countries who have not officially recognized, but they are doing billions of dollars of business,
And
like
these
Turkey.
are Arab countries.
No,
yeah,
it's
and these are
Turkey as
Muslim
well.
countries.
Yeah, it's Turkey as well, and then it's Saudi Arabia,
Yeah.
which provided a landline of supplies.
And how is it Turkey? Wasn't the press secretary for Turkey speaking out about Israel?
Yes, they
A
do
few-
sometimes. Even Erdogan would do that, but on the back, then they would have deals. They would have business.
Hypocritical, yeah.
So one of the biggest exports Turkey has is to Israel. It's exporting, and even the stuff which comes from other countries, like the oil for Israel, is coming from, I think, Azerbaijan, and that's going through Turkey. So there are trade
so what should
routes.
we do if not normalize them? What does normalization effort for us mean? Should we not normalize them, and should we, take who do we put the blame on? Who do we put the blame on for
We
all
put-
of these
we
atrocities?
put-
Do we put it on the civilians living there, the innocents living there, or who?
Not at all. Not at all. We put it on our rulers.
Our rulers?
Yes, we put it on our rulers. Look, the people of Palestine are just people. There's no state. There's nothing. So we can't blame them. So either we put it on our rulers, and our ruler means the rulers of the Muslims. And the rulers of the Muslims are the rulers of Egypt, the rulers of Jordan, now the new ruler of Syria,
Yeah.
Ahmad al-Shara, the ruler of Turkey, Erdogan, and the rulers of Pakistan. Why not? It's us. Like, the basic notion of Islam is that Muslims are one. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Like, hold fast onto the rope of Allah, which is Islam, and do not be divided. What are these divisions? Where are they coming from? Really? I mean, the youth, you guys, should really completely challenge this notion of nationalism and nation states. What is this? Just 100 years old? And we are sticking to it? Like, we were put in these nation state cages by the Westerners. They divided us. They drew some lines on the map, and we are like holding them, we are sanctifying them. They are like sacred for us. They are more sacred to us than Muslim blood. Why? It's really absurd. This is absurd.
Okay. What should be our attitude towards Israelis, normal Israelis?
Yes, you bring that up again and again. I mean, normal Israelis, look.
Because the
Look,
normalization
this-
effort seems to want to humanize them, as I said before, humanize them as in their whole population, aside from who's the rulers.
Humanize whom? That's the point. Look, we Muslims understand and respect Jews as human beings, as Jews, as people of another mazhab, another religion, right? Whether they live in any part of the world. But the specific ones who live at the moment, who live in Palestine, they are part of those occupying people.
Oh.
And when we talk about them, when we look at them, especially when
I think I'm starting to get what you're talking about. Maybe, though they may be innocent, just being living there,
Yeah.
but it doesn't change the fact that they're living in someone else's
yes,
house.
exactly, they shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be actually there. The children should tell their parents
But what does it
why,
mean?
what is going on.
If we succeed and we, let's say we have Palestine take back its lands that were theirs, rightly so, what would happen to those people then?
It's a very good
Would
question.
they not have a homeland?
Very good question. I don't know the exact answer. It's a Sharia thing to look
Yeah.
at. But I think
Would you
top of
expel
that,
them from the lands
top
like
of that,
we did?
top of the head. Actually, it's about there are certain people who are Canaanites. So Palestinians, almost all of them, they are not Arabs. They are Canaanites. We'll discuss this in another episode.
All right.
And very few of the Jews are Canaanites. Very few. And the most people in the current population, they are Ashkenazi Jews, which
Yeah.
means roughly white Jews.
Yeah, but
and these white
she
Jews
says
have
in the-
come from Europe.
Yeah.
They have come from Germany, from Hungary, from Poland, and from Russia. These
No,
people
but
have come from
how
there.
does that make sense? She said in the interview that they have thousands of years of culture.
That's
as
what we have to
Israelis.
discuss. There is no thousands of years of cultures. We, inshallah, will discuss that in another episode. This is an important point.
They come
It's
from
very-
Bani Israel, and
Yeah, we'll
it
discuss
works
that.
for them.
We'll discuss that. But right now, these people are white people. They are Ashkenazi Jews. They have come from these countries, and they actually never lived there. So these people, maybe, the leader of the Muslims will decide that they have to go back. Others who belong to here can live there. Maybe he also permits them to live there as individuals, not as a state. You cannot own a room inside someone else's house. You can't.
All right. Yeah.
Done for
Perfect
today.
sense. Yeah, done.
So thank you very much. It was, I
Thank you.
think, a much heated discussion today. And guys, I hope that you will be looking forward to another episode. I don't know when we'll record that, but that would be a bit about the history of this land called Palestine and the misconceptions which the Israeli government, particularly Netanyahu, is trying to establish. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair.